Welcome to the Understanding Projects podcast. My discussion today is with Anna Hohenadel, who is the PRME Coordinator at Conestoga College. Anna is currently spearheading an initiative to implement PRME at the college, with PRME standing for Principles for Responsible Management Education. Related to PRME, we talked about the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals and how to work with organizations in order to integrate these goals into their projects and operations. Our discussion also included the challenges encountered, such as getting the attention of the organization's management, quantifying the benefits, and the concept of greenwashing. Here is my discussion with Anna Hohenadel. You're the PRME Coordinator at Conestoga College. So what can you tell us about PRME? Like what is PRME? What are its characteristics, and what should students know about it?
Yeah, so PRME is an acronym and it stands for Principles for Responsible Management Education. It was started in 2007 by the United Nations Global Compact. And the Global Compact is a group of mainly CEOs of large corporations that recognize the need for sustainability practices in business. And they found that once they started to really get involved in sustainability, there was a lack of trained professionals from colleges and universities that understood sustainability and how to best put it into practice. So in 2007, they started PRME, which is the Principles for Responsible Management Education. And there has now been 800 signatory schools of colleges and universities across the world. And the aim of PRME is to create future leaders that understand the demands of sustainability and understand a triple bottom line, which is people, planet, and profit. So it's kind of working to slowly change the business model to incorporate society and environmental factors.
Okay, and I understand that our college, Conestoga, is a member for this. What does that mean for the college? Like what types of things will we do differently?
So Conestoga College and the School of Business specifically signed on to be a signatory to PRME in November of 2020. And to be a signatory, an active signatory, you need to submit a report of your actions every 2 years to the United Nations body that organizes PRME. So that's something that I'm working on intensely right now, is to develop our first sharing information on progress report for PRME that's going to go through a lot of the great work Conestoga has done in the last 2 years. This report will be publicly available after it's submitted to the UN. So that's a great time when you can look into all the different initiatives that have been started here at Conestoga School of Business. And we're also going to outline some goals for the future of how we want to make sure that PRME continues to be something that becomes embedded within the School of Business.
Right, good. Within PRME, there's reference to Sustainable Development Goals, or they're referred to often as SDGs for short. What are these goals, and how does that differ? How is that different from PRME? So can you kind of provide an overview?
Yeah, for sure. So the Sustainable Development Goals were created by the United Nations in 2015. So it came after PRME, but since it was created, it became a cornerstone of the PRME initiative to make sure that these goals are that PRME can help these goals come to fruition. So the Sustainable Development Goals are 17 different goals that were agreed upon by almost all of the countries in the world. And they're very ambitious, but they set targets for a more sustainable future. And since they're so ambitious, it requires the collaboration of everybody, not just governments, but private corporations, nonprofits, community organizations, and everyday people to help advance them. So you can look at the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals on their website, and they can break down each of the goals, have different targets and different indicators. And the targets are usually very focused on things that national governments can report on. So sometimes there needs to be a bit of a bridge to bridge the gap between what a federal government can do and what an individual corporation can do. But there's still a lot of ways that we can help Canada and the world achieve these sustainable development goals.
Right. That sounds good. I won't put you on the spot and ask you to name all 17, but what are one or two? So you give me one or two goals just as an example of the types of things that are in there.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, they are ambitious. The first two are no poverty and zero hunger.
Right.
Then there's things like good health and well-being, reducing inequalities, gender equality. There's responsible consumption and production. There is climate change as a goal, life on land, life underwater, and a bunch of different goals in between. And then the last one, number 17, is partnerships towards the goal. So that is a whole goal talking about why it's so important for everyone to work together. And these goals were created after the Millennium Goals, which were the goals that were set by the United Nations before these. And they have much more of a focus on not leaving anyone behind. So it's not the responsibility of less developed countries to catch up. It's the responsibility of everyone to help everyone move forward, because these are focused on equality and making the whole world a better place, not just your own country a better place.
Right. Very good. I assume that in your current role, and even some of your previous roles prior to coming to the college, that you've managed projects and so on. And it sounds like, the report that you're working on is certainly a large project that you're working on right now. How have you approached these projects, especially with a sustainable, development mindset? Like how do you bring that in to the projects that you've, either managed now or have managed in the past?
Yeah, I always try to bring sustainability into any project I'm a part of. I have been studying sustainability since my undergrad and have worked in a lot of sustainable organizations and worked in organizations that aren't focused on sustainability. And I find that the approach needs to be really different depending on the organization. So I've worked for a large tech company where sustainability wasn't necessarily a priority, but I just had to understand their business model and understand what that company valued and how I could integrate sustainability into it in a way that made sense. Maybe I would say, if you do this and this, then we can save energy and this would result in a cost savings of this, or we could increase our brand reputation because it's clear that we are interested in sustainability and working to make things better. So that's a totally different environment from a nonprofit. Before I came to Conestoga, I was working at a nonprofit on a project called SDG Cities. So they were obviously very invested in sustainable development goals and helping other organizations and companies in Guelph and London integrate the sustainable development goals into their business model. So in that role, I wasn't pushing anyone on my nonprofit team to incorporate them, but I was helping all these other businesses and stakeholders understand why it was important. And these were willing participants that were coming to us to learn more. So that was a very different environment with a lot more curiosity and drive to make a change. And it was less important that I create a really solid business case for why I needed to incorporate those goals.
Right. Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it, and of one, organizations that are naturally engaged, nonprofits, or if that is part of that they are part of like a sustainable business industry, if we want to call it that. But other companies, like you said, a tech company, for example, how did you find that conversation went? Like you were talking about a business case, showing them the advantages. Did you get pushback from it at all? Were there examples where the manager or the person involved in the project would not be receptive? And if that is the case, what did you do in that case?
Within tech companies, things work very, very quickly, and the speed at which things get done and ideas get off the ground is rapid compared to a higher education environment or a nonprofit or a government environment. So it was just getting the attention of the right people and the right motivations for the right people to make sure that things took off, and not being discouraged when things didn't work out as I initially planned. Just keep on going back to different people, understanding what was reasonable to ask for, and understanding the motivations of the company was really important as well. And it is something that tech companies are striving for in general. You just have to get people at the right time when everyone's very, very busy. I think that kind of goes for all the organizations I've worked in. Everyone's very busy all the time. So you need to kind of understand the right moment, be very prepared, and have your elevator pitch or your 30-second pitch to kind of hook people in. You don't want to be boring them with a bunch of like literature reviews and all that kind of stuff to explain why it's important. Just be like, this is why it's important to you and to the company.
Right. This is the advantage. And so I can see where that would, and like you say, you need to find the right people. You need to speak in the language that they're receptive to, and help them see the advantages. Did you have any instances? I'm just curious about this because this is a key interaction. This is a key thing within a the project scope, so to speak. Like in the case where you can make the business case to say, hey, if we do it this way, we'll save, we'll save energy, we'll save electricity. So, most business people, I think, would immediately see the benefit of that, and it'd be an easier sell, maybe not an easy sell, but an easier sell. Did you have situations where, it might be increasing the cost of the project for a less tangible benefit, maybe for reputation or perception? Did you run in, like, did you have those? Did they respond positively, or how did you address that, or how would you see addressing that even if it didn't happen?
Well, within the Sustainable Business Management program that I did at Conestoga in 2020 and 2021, we kind of discussed all of those different factors when we were working on our capstone project for operational sustainability. So we got a real world client to work with, and we went through their business model and like all of their equipment and facilities to understand where there could be cuts made or changes made to increase the operational sustainability and how that would increase the brand. And a lot of operational sustainability can sometimes be easier if it's really obvious that you can create a projection by saying an improvement will cost this much, it'll save you this much, and then within this many months or years, the investment will have paid itself off and you'll be making money. So those are obviously the ideal situations where a lot of sustainability changes can be made, but for other reputational changes, you might need to point to the consumer base and how younger consumers are really starting to care a lot about sustainability and looking for brands that respect sustainability and operate in a more sustainable nature. It's just hard sometimes to avoid a greenwashing situation where they're making claims that aren't very well backed or aren't always followed through on. But that's nothing that happened in any of the organizations I've worked for. It's just something that I see in a lot of bigger brands these days.
I think greenwashing, I think I've heard of that. So can you help me? Is that where, and I think you just said it, so I'll just repeat it back to you. So that is where claims are made of benefits that don't really exist, or is that what can you help me or define greenwashing for me?
Yeah, greenwashing is basically a fake sustainability campaign. So it's mostly developed within a marketing department And it's talking about the brands being sustainable, but there's no way to measure the sustainability initiatives or keep track of how the company is improving at all or making any real changes, and kind of trying to bury some of the worst parts of their operations. One of my dad's favorite examples of, it's not so much greenwashing in the current scenario, but it is more historically, is that all Apple products say on them designed in Cupertino, California.
Yeah.
When they're all made in China, but they're trying to hide where they're made by putting created.
Yeah, I've noticed that whenever I exactly, I just opened a box, just purchased some AirPods, and there it was of in California. And you're right, it is subtle. They're not technically lying, but they're certainly they're not saying and made in China, and most of it is made in China. Like, yes, we designed it and in California, but the operations, the development of the thing was in China or wherever. So yeah, that's, I mean, that's I think a key challenge. And yes, if more harm, I would think that more harm can be done by these facades or these fake, campaigns or whatever, because it will taint the real ones, so that's really interesting. I hadn't thought of something like that. It's like, the analogy I'll use, it's the difference between a honest and heartfelt compliment and flattery. Like, compliments and heartfelt compliments are good, flattery bad, because it just makes you doubt everything. So that's really, really good. So what do you think from an organizational perspective? I'm say I'm running a tech company or manufacturing company, and or whatever. What benefits? Why do I want to bring on a sustainable development consultant, or bring that into my organization? Like, what does it do for my company? I know, I think anyways, what from a company standpoint, what would you say would be the benefits to me of looking into the goals and aligning with them?
Yeah, I think that bringing on a sustainability consultant would be beneficial, especially in areas of operational sustainability. That's kind of the easiest low-hanging fruit that could be taken care of right away and help prove the value of sustainability to business leaders that don't necessarily understand or buy into the idea that this is important. And then it can also improve employee morale if things are getting made better and improvements are made within, if it's a manufacturing facility. It can also extend to employee health and well-being and other things like that, and training opportunities. It can help with brand enhancement, which I never like saying that that's like a strong reason why you should, but it is a motivating factor for a lot of businesses why they might finally agree to it, is because it does help with brand enhancement. And I think if you can show a lot of initiatives that have some backing in metrics and data, it's really important to show to different consumers who might have that as a reason why they're deciding to go with a certain brand over another. It can also help get in ahead of any environmental regulations that might be introduced later on, so that you already have all this information, you've already worked to improve, and it can reduce emissions and help advance the sustainable development goals. It's hard for a lot of for-profit companies, it's hard to push just purely intrinsic, do it because it's good for the planet. But at some point you can also add that we need to protect the planet for future generations, and we need to work in a sustainable way that might help in areas and times of uncertainty. Maybe if you have a more tight operation within your factory, and then there's inconsistency with ordering or supply chain or all those things that happened during COVID, you might be better prepared to deal with all those because you've set in place a lot of processes and programs beforehand.
Right. Yeah, all good ideas, and you know, I think like you said in your program of study that you took, I'm sure these are all things that were talked about, and I think that is one of the key challenges, is motivating, you know, business and within their operations and their projects to look for ways to achieve those benefits. It reminds me somewhat of, this goes back a number of years, but when there was discussion of quality, I know this is different from what we're talking about, but there was a quality initiative, and a lot of times business would resist it and say, well, I can't afford to do that. Just like they might be saying, I can't afford to do sustainability. I'd like to, but I can't afford it. And one of the things in quality was there was and I don't recall who the author of this statement was, but there was a somebody that said quality is free. And the idea being that if you implement quality and do it well, you bring the cost down and you achieve efficiencies and you satisfy customers and you get more sales. And so why wouldn't you do quality? You know, and I see parallels with that of sustainable concepts of well, why wouldn't you do this? Because of all the advantages, that the things that you just talked about, you know, and that's the business, like that's the business case, like, you know, the big one, and it's just how do you fit that to different organizations? But those are all good things. How do you find out more if viewers of this would like to say, yeah, this has got me, you know, kind of really interested in the sustainable development goals and Prime, where should they go and look or find out? How can they get involved?
Yeah, so the SDGs and Prime both have websites that you can look at to learn a bit more. Also within Conestoga, that I'm currently working on that sharing information on progress report. Once that's available, there's going to be a lot more detail into all the work that Conestoga has done for Prime and a lot of goals that will directly impact students to help further bring Prime into the School of Business. So that'll be something to look forward to in December or January. And there's also a student-led sustainability club on campus. I was the founding president of the sustainability club, and it is a way to learn more about the SDGs and Prime and how they can be incorporated into your education and your daily life and your future career. And they run a lot of different events. It just got going a couple weeks ago, again with a new president and vice president and treasurer, but I'm sure they're going to be running events shortly that everyone can attend, and it's open to students across Conestoga. So it would be great to have people from a lot of different programs involved in the club.
Right. That was going to be my one question, is that it's not exclusive to only the sustainability program. Of course, you'd want from any or all programs, I'm sure. I will post the website addresses in the description of the pod, so we don't have to list them or say them here. And if there's anyone watching from another institution, you know, especially an educational institution, I'd be somewhat certain that there would be some sort of similar club or events within your school or institution. If not, it might be, you know, there's an opportunity to start one, I suppose. So there may be a need there.
Yeah, absolutely. This was the first club started in Conestoga that had the theme of sustainability. And it is really important to students and employers, and this knowledge is important for the future generation. So it would be great if other schools started this. There's about 33 signatories in Canada to Prime. And there's only one other college that signed on around the same time that we did. So this is something that I hope will continue to grow within Canada. And I'm sure that Conestoga School of Business can be a leader for other colleges and other institutions as well.
Great. Well, Anna, thanks very much. This has been a really illuminating conversation. It's great to see the great work that you're doing. We'll look forward to your report coming out late. It sounds like later this year, and as well as for lots of opportunities for, I suppose, all of the people at Conestoga to get involved in it. So it sounds really exciting.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. And if you're still interested in learning more about greenwashing, I think the best case study that you can look into is the fast fashion industry and how they participate in greenwashing. The fast
Okay.
fashion industry is a mess for sustainability, and they're now trying to pretend they're sustainable. And it's sad, but also a very, very interesting case study.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's good for anyone watching. I'm sure if you Googled those keywords, it sounds like there'd be lots coming up. So that's interesting. So anyways, thanks very much, and good luck in your future endeavors.
All right, thank you so much for having me.
That's it for this episode. If you would like to learn more about project management, you can find my book, Understanding Project Management, A Practical Guide, on Amazon. Please also consider following Understanding Projects on your favorite podcast player or clicking subscribe on YouTube.